If you're a climate denier, such as Rowan Dean, Sky News in general, Murdoch Press in particular, you are going to look for any opportunity you can to decry science and particularly to criticise the effort to roll out renewables in Australia. You're going to do whatever you can to make sure that whatever information you choose to select may have an element of truth, but does not have the full story. And I've got an example of that coming up for you in just a moment. Now, Rowan Dean was on Outsiders this morning talking about almost everything that didn't matter to anybody, but here he is discussing this notion around science and whether science is true or not, or whether it should be adhered to, or whether it should be relied on to determining the way our future will be. So I'm going to play this segment for you from Rowan. It's relatively lengthy, but he is rather verbose to say the least. And of course, Rowan is the man who knows everything about everything.
Again, the science.
I've heard you say before that you do believe in the science behind climate change, yes?
Absolutely.
You were standing next to Nationals leader David Littleproud on Sunday as he explicitly said that this decision is not based on science. Is that right?
I don't believe that's what he said. He said that the economics is what we need to focus on.
He said this debate is not about science.
This debate is not one predicated on science. It is one predicated on economics.
He's certainly not walking away from the science of climate change. There may have been a misunderstanding there.
Now, Susan, a word of warning. The science behind climate change is one of those meaningless tautological concepts so beloved of the left, which allows them to get away with blue murder. Phrases like, do you believe women? Or Black Lives Matter, or love is love. The list goes on and on. These phrases can't be argued with because they are self-referential. The science behind whatever should ring alarm bells to everyone who was mocked and ridiculed during COVID, or even forced to take a vaccine against their will. There is science literally behind anything and everything, because science is merely the study of how a thing works, and by understanding how a thing works allows for projections or predictions of how things may work in the future. Science is based on observation, proven facts, and precise formulae. Science is not a belief system. Religion is the description of belief systems, not science.
See, here his argument is primarily that anything relating to climate change, regardless of the science, is simply a belief system. Even though I think he kind of criticised, he's sort of critical of himself in at least expressing a view that science is about the gathering of data and making assessments. But particularly when it comes to the future, and what science may predict in terms of the information that may give us now, is something that he kind of questions, regardless of the idea that it's not that he's against science. I think he's against the way it can be interpreted.
Scientific theories evolve and should be subject to constant, rigorous testing and challenge. There is no single science behind climate change. There is a scientific hypothesis behind global warming called the greenhouse effect. Beyond that, there is a plethora of theories, models, projections, and likelihoods based on modeling, which is based on inputs and based on assumptions which may or may not be right or wrong. So when some young kid on the ABC says, do you believe in the science behind climate change? Again, there is only one truthful and honest answer. What do you mean? So, for example, if the interviewer smugly says, well, the science tells us renewables are the cheapest form of energy, a very easy response is, and science also tells us that asbestos is absolutely deadly.
So this is quite interesting, because this is where he attempts to use the science to validate his version of climate change and the dangers that it imposes when we start to build wind turbines. So this is and this fascinates me, that this moron will do whatever he can to try and convince us that even though this is an appropriate direction that we could be taking, that at the end of the day, this actually will be bad for us because of these reasons. And here he is producing that reason.
And science tells us that we should immediately replace all the Chinese windmills containing asbestos, or even better, the science suggests we should immediately halt the import of all Chinese windmills because they may, we now learn, contain asbestos. And this will cost the taxpayer a fortune, money we don't actually have, not to mention, as the science also tells us, that the asbestos and or poisonous glues in or on unknown number of Chinese wind towers and wind tower blades can pollute our canola paddocks, our wheat, our barley, our oats, and even affect...
Okay, so he's made his point. So let's try and think about this accusation, so that wind turbines do contain certain components of asbestos, so that and that does raise a potential environmental, occupation, and disposal concern. So let's understand all of that to start with. He's not wrong, so let's accept that. Good on you for raising it. But is it the full story? This is a question. Is it a rigorous investigation about his claims? So in Australia, regulators are investigating wind turbines that's manufactured by Goldwind Australia, a subsidiary of the Chinese manufacturing company, in which asbestos was found in the brake pads of internal lift systems inside the turbine towers. The impact of good containing asbestos has been banned. So wherever asbestos has been in Australia, it has been banned, and it's been banned since 2003. So according to the Australian regulators, access to turbines with these suspect brake pads has been restricted and material testing is underway. Yet we don't know what remains, and a lot of this is still unclear because this is just a recent discovery. So it's not yet publicly documented, at least in the sources that I've been able to find anyway, that all turbines impacted from China contain asbestos. It has not been established, even though people like Rowan Dean want us to believe that it has. The current investigation seems specific to certain components, and that is just the brake pads and a specific supplier, not necessarily blades or tower structure, but just the brake pads. The full scale of potential exposure, that's the workers, the environment, disposal, and how we dispose of it, remains unclear. For instance, whether the asbestos is firmly bound if non-fiable, or whether it is likely to become airborne and hence pose significant risk. The regulators say the risk to the public is very, very low at this time. So while Rowan Dean's making such a big deal of all of this, the reality is that the information is not available to know whether or not it is a distinct problem and to what effect it will have on the environment. So asbestos fibres escaping into broader environment, into soil, water, or other forms of, contamination is not well documented in regard to these turbines anyway. Whether the issue is specific to one manufacturer supply chain or potentially widespread among Chinese manufacturing wind turbine equipment globally is still under investigation. So we can make the claim, Ryan, but at the end of the day, you don't have enough information to be able to say whether or not, and given your hypothesis around science, you don't have the information to be able to say whether or not it's going to be harmful or not. So we just don't know. A lot of the information is so unclear. So while on one hand there is an issue, no one's disputing that The degree to which it is a problem and how it's going to impact us is another. Because at the end of the day, the government may very well decide that what they plan to do is to restrict those turbines from being imported into Australia if they contain asbestos, once they work out how harmful it will be. That is a simple fact. So I guess my argument here is it's okay to bring up a problem, but if you don't understand the full context of the problem, then it's very difficult to try and debate it away. And this is what Sky News do all the time. They present the problem without identifying for you and I as to how this problem can be rectified and to what degree it is a problem in the first place. Let me know what you think about all of that in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell for further notifications. Take care, everybody.